Hi everyone, I'm Karen and I'm here with my co-educators Chris and Angel, who you'll see in a moment. And we're here at Chapin Woods, which is a little bit of a lesser known little area in the Greenbelt. And we're going to take you on our Trail of the Month hike today. And we're going to pass it on to Angel. She's going to talk a little bit about the trail itself and what the area we're in right now is called.
Hi everyone, how are you? Nice to see you. Nice to be seen here at Reed's Basket Willow Swamp Park. I wonder how many people have actually been out here before. Before I worked for the Parks Department, I'd only been here once. But since I've been working for the Parks Department, I've been here several times. And each time it's a little bit different. But what's really important to know is how to get here, because maybe that's why a lot of people haven't gotten here. So we are in the Dungan Hills neighborhood of Staten Island. You can reach this park by coming up Chapin Street into the dead end here. We also can get here by the 76 or the 74 bus from the ferry, or you could take the Staten Island Railroad to the Dungan Hills stop, and that gets you off at Garrettson. It's about a 15-minute walk here. So it's pretty nice through these quiet streets, and here we are. You will see that this is the start of the Orange Trail, which is why I wore my bright orange jacket. This actually used to be the farthest extent of the Yellow Trail on the Greenbelt Yellow Trail, but recently, since the trail map has been adjusted and changed to match what is in reality on the trails here, they wanted to cut out the portion of the trail that was going through the residential street of Toad Hill and Dungan Hills, because it wasn't the best area to be walking through as a hiker. So this is actually now a completely self-contained loop with two trailheads that come out on Anfield Court and Chapin Avenue.
Okay, so as Chris kind of pans around here in this area, you will see there's lots and lots of greenery. But what we're looking at right now, well, a lot of mugwort, but also a ton of what we call porcelain berry. It's a really pretty plant and it makes a beautiful berry, but as you can see, it's highly invasive, and you know I love to talk about my invasive plants. So again, you can see it's kind of covering and just going over every other plant here. Maybe we can get a close-up of what that looks like. You've probably seen this in this one over here is raspberry. Oh wait, we have some here. So you may see this in your backyard. If you do see it, I recommend cutting it down and trying to get rid of it, because it will take over your yard. These berries right now are green, but they will turn like a beautiful blue. I think I have one here. Then try not to get, and purple. Sometimes people mistake them for grapes, but they are not grapes. Really beautiful berry. Birds love to eat them. I'm pretty sure they're poisonous, so I wouldn't try eating them, and don't mistake them for a grape. They do have a similar leaf to a grape, but this is not what you want to eat. So again, you can see all the way up into the trees. If you live in Snug Harbor area, you might see this along Henderson Avenue in Snug Harbor, and it's pretty bad invasive, as you can tell.
Yeah, as I was reading about it, it said that it actually escaped from a nursery because it had been brought over because of how beautiful the porcelain berries are. They turn that really bright blue and purple color. And some varieties of them, the porcelain berry elegans, it comes with a really nice kind of white, blotchy, painted looking leaf that you may see randomly throughout the Greenbelt or throughout the island. And it's the same plant, which is pretty awesome.
Another thing we have growing here is, I believe it's blackberry, not raspberry. And you can see this plant, and that is a native plant, which is holding its own, which is nice. And I think we missed out on the berry season in this area. But sometimes you'll see them, they are edible. Never eat anything unless you're absolutely sure of what you're eating though. So it's nice to see these native blackberries growing.
Yeah, they're really, really big here actually. They make a really nice corridor to walk through, and I'm sure lots of different animals, especially smaller mammals, find shelter underneath them.
think we're going to walk up the trail a little bit here. So we are going to check out the pond that is up here. A few years ago there were bald eagles spotted. I'm not sure if they were spotted again in recent years, but it was one of the first places on Staten Island that we saw bald eagles when they started returning to our island.
And as we walk up this trail, when you enter from Chapin, from that dead end there, you're going to be walking up kind of flanking this first pond. And there are some like social trails that go in there, but as you'll see in just a few seconds, they're not the safest to be walking on. The Greenbelt Trail crews have marked designated trails that are maintained for everyone's safety, and those ones are not maintained in that way. So although you can see some evidence of people going in there, that is not the official trail, and we'll show you real quick when we come up on it what the trail markers throughout Reed's Basket look like. And at the moment you can see a very vibrant green ground plant that I'm sure if anybody's watched any of our videos knows a little bit about Staten Island and invasive species, knows that this is the prolific stilt grass, which unfortunately is covering more and more of our greenbelt every day.
So this is one of the trails Angel was talking about. So people do use this, but as you can see, it's very, very steep. They want to get down to look at the pond. There are other places that are a little bit safer to take a look at this pond, and we're going to walk over there in a few minutes. So yeah, not the best place to go down to check out the water.
You can see here that beyond that social trail, there is a trail marker just to remind everyone that this is actually the trail. This is the way, because it can get confusing when you see that there are openings that might suggest that you can get that way. Sometimes they're trails that people made because they wanted to get from point A to point B a little faster. Sometimes they're trails that animals like deer or raccoons would have made because they want to get from point A to point B faster. But we try our hardest to keep our trails marked really well so you all know how to get safely from one end to the other. So this park, actually, when I'm walking through it, it reminds me a little bit of Deer Park, which is along the Blue Trail. Not because of the wetlands, because Deer Park doesn't really have that, but because of the really steep inclines and declines and deep ravines. In a similar way, Reed's Basket has the kind of same thing going on where there's a lot of erosion going on because of lots of drainage issues. As you can see there, if Chris, you pan up, you can kind of see that there are neighborhoods right around the park, just like you would find in Toad Hill around Deer Park. So as the landscape is changing because there was lots of development on Staten Island, then the natural areas also changed a lot, and the way that the water was moving changed and would carve out deep ravines as well.
So we do have a lot of really nice native trees growing here and a pretty diverse group. Over here I think we have a nice big tulip tree. You can't really see the leaves too much. Kind of to the left of you, Chris, we have black birch. We also have some sweet gum. And what else? There was one more I wanted to mention. And sassafras, which is a really nice plant. Unfortunately, it's a favorite of the deer to eat, so it's nice to see them here. And when we come across a tulip tree, that we can actually look at the leaves, we'll show them to you. Careful. So this is what I would call maybe an easy to moderate trail, depending on how used to hiking you are. So you can see it's a little rocky, and we do have steep areas. So be aware of that when you come out to this part of the park.
So I wanted to show you two pieces from the tulip tree. So we have a tulip tree leaf, which, yep, a big one and a little one. They kind of look to me like a cat face. They have like kind of the, or like a fox or something like that. And then generally the larger leaves are from the smaller trees. As they're growing up, they need a broader surface to absorb as much sunlight as possible. So as you can see, this smaller one over here has quite large leaves that are really close to the ground because they're vying for all of those resources that all the bigger trees are kind of being a little greedy about right now because they're closer to the sun. It's a little easier for them to get it. We have a slug. We have a little slug. Last time I was here, I actually found a slug that was feeding on one of the fresh tulip flowers, which is where the tulip poplar gets its name, because when the tulip flowers, when the tulip flowers are growing, yeah, this one definitely looks like it's been eaten. So they're actually really good sources of food and nutrition for local wildlife. Slugs, ants will definitely chew on them, and they're really beautiful. But usually, since the tulip tree does grow to be one of the tallest trees in all of North America, they can get up to like 200 feet tall. We don't often get to see how beautiful those bright green and orange and white flowers are when they grow. Recently, actually, I saw some in Silver Lake Park that were so low that I could see them. They're gorgeous. It was amazing.
So we stopped at this plant because this is called a spice bush, and it's very common in our park. And as you can see, it's making these really nice red berries. And the reason it's called spice bush, unfortunately we don't have smell-o-vision, but it's got almost like an allspice type scent to it. And when you dry these out, they do look like a peppercorn. So you could technically take them and grind them up like a pepper and use them to spice your food. And Native Americans would use these to make their food taste better before there was spices from all over the world. So a really nice plant, a great plant to plant in your garden. It does make a really pretty, almost like yellowy green flower in the spring, and then it makes these beautiful red berries in the fall. So really good plant, great alternative to forsythia. Not my favorite plant, but this is a great alternative to that.
And Chris, I don't know if you've shown kind of the opening of the pond this way, but it's pretty awesome. You can be walking over here and not really realize that there is a large body of water that from here I can see is pretty much completely covered with duckweed. But we're going to make our way around and show everybody a different view shed of that area. While I kind of tell you a little bit about what's up with this park and why it has such a long and wordy and confusing kind of backwards name. So, reeds, basket, willow, basket, no, basket willow, okay, reeds, see, exactly, that's the point. Reeds, basket, willow, swamp, park. So, reed, spelled today, R-E-E-D, actually refers to a family name from the late 1800s of Reed, R-E-A-D then, that had been changed. But Mr. Reed lived here on Staten Island and owned this plot of land and wanted to try his hand at being a basket maker. So baskets are handmade vessels from things that people would find from the woods. You might use shoots or branches of trees. You might use roots. But what Mr. Reed used was actually the splints made from the bark of his cultivated purple willow trees. These days, those purple willow trees do not exist in this park anymore. There are some black willows here, but the purple willows actually do require the human touch to keep them alive in such areas. So what I think is really cool about that story is the fact that, you know, as environmental educators in New York City parks, it's really important for us to let the public know that it's really not a great idea to take things out of the park and take them home, especially in large quantities. So if you were wanting to go out and make a basket, it would not be a great idea to take things from the park because those things are a part of nature and we want to keep things as close to nature as possible. So it's a really rainy day and really wet, and we have lots of evidence of fungus on trees. There's also some mosses and lichens growing everywhere, and so this is a really great evidence of how old this park is, because as trees fall, they become even more part of the soil as the various decomposers come through and break them down and make them more widely accessible as nutrient for other aspects, other like plants and animals in the park.
So we have this really pretty stream happening here, and we just had a nice rainfall, so you can see it's running. I don't know if you can see right underneath that tree, we have a little bit of a waterfall happening. Really quiet and peaceful here. So again, we're going to go uphill. So this might be considered a moderate trail for some.
Non-traditional trail blaze. Usually the trail blazes that we use in the Greenbelt are rectangles, different configurations, but we see this one here. Still very clear communication, saying that this orange trail actually goes to the left and the right. So, if we went to the left, we'd actually find Reed's swamp up the hill. That swamp is actually filled with lots of Phragmites. At this point, we're going to go this way and check out this wetland from the other side.
So there is another entrance to this park on Anfield Court, I believe it's called, which you can access kind of behind Staten Island Academy off Toad Hill Road. The roads up there are a little twisty, so I would definitely say use your GPS, but there is an entrance into this part of the park from that area. Don't know if it's really accessible too much by public transportation, so if you wanted to come here, you're better off coming in from Chapin Avenue.
And as we're walking along this kind of clearly, this is like a larger, wider trail, more like a road. The history of this area is that in the 50s, when the utilities companies were coming in and drilling and digging to be able to put different gas pipelines in, which we'll be able to see up the way, these yellow upright posts, they did a lot of disturbing of this soil. So that is why this area looks a little different than kind of the face of the rest of the park. So because of that disturbance, by 1978, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the DEC, designated this area as a protected wetland so that no one could continue to come in and do things like that. And then by 1980, it became New York City parkland. Oh, there it is. Nice. Yeah. This is the Porcelain Berry elegans that I spoke of earlier that has that really vibrant and interesting splotchy white and green. Nice eyes. Right? Yeah. And so by 1980, it was a part of New York City Parks, and then by 1984, I believe, it became a part of the Greenbelt. And at this moment, it comprises about 55 acres of land, this park in and of itself.
So this area is a little bit better of a way to get down towards the water and really check it out, rather than going down that very steep slope. That's not really a trail. So we're going to take a walk down a little bit. it is a wetland, so it's going to have muddy edges. And you're going to try and stay out of those muddy edges because it does damage the area. There's a lot of things happening in that mud that we don't want to be stepping on. The other day we found some skunk cabbage seeds, so we're going to see if we can find those again because they're kind of cool to see. Did you want to add anything to it? Oh, there they are.
Find it, yes, right over here. It is definitely slippery though, so be careful when you come on down. But this was a really cool kind of mystery the other day when we came down and saw these. Oh, and a huge worm. Nice. But so here you can see the fruit of the skunk cabbage, and then if you kind of like pan around, you can actually see the new growths coming up all around us. Skunk cabbage is one of the most common sort of stream-side, water-side plants, native plants on Staten Island. When we were out here the other day, I saw a great blue heron and a little blue heron, both in this area. It's really beautiful, and since, you know, at this moment I can hear like a truck backing up, like it sounds, but besides that, we're very much inside the greenbelt, but kind of in a really nice nestled alcove of it.
And you may notice there is a green coating on top of our pond here. That is actually something called duckweed, and I believe it's the smallest flowering plant, and like the name states, ducks love to eat it. So you might see this on many of our ponds in New York City and New York State, and you think it's an algae or a slime, but it is actually a plant. Each little piece, which is probably a centimeter maybe, if
Or
even,
two,
not
maybe,
even, maybe a quarter of a centimeter. It's probably hundreds and thousands of them on top of this pond water here. And it really looks kind of cool. Sometimes it looks a little bit like ice or like the water solid. And sometimes you'll see the ducks making trails through it as they eat it.
And as we're standing here, I wanted to talk about this awesome plant that is so magnificently trailing itself up this tree. So we have an oak tree here, and the lowest branches that we can see coming off of this very thick, hairy, spiraling rope don't look like oak leaves to me, so I realized that these are actually the kind of mimicking branches of poison ivy plants. And I know everybody on Staten Island knows something about poison ivy, whether you have a first-hand experience of the itchy rash that you get from the oils on the vine, as well as the leaves themselves. But poison ivy is a vine. It grows generally on the ground, kind of trailing all over the place, but then it finds a host, a nice strong tree willing to give up a little bit of real estate, and then it attaches itself. And so lately I've been realizing that it would be a really good idea when you see branches maybe in the trail, don't grab them, because sometimes you don't exactly realize that it's actually a poison ivy plant being really tricky and trying to make you think that it's just an oak branch. So be careful.
So if those leaves look different from the rest of the leaves on the tree, it's probably poison ivy.
I do also see lots of evidence on this greenbrier of deer browse. So I just wanted to bring that up. That's another reason why this park reminds me of Deer Park and the other parks on Staten Island, because there's a high population of deer. I've seen them every time I'm here. They actually let me get a little close as I was in here painting the trailblazes. We were all kind of walking around together, but with deer come any other hazards that might come with deer as well, so be careful when you're walking through the parks of high grasses or veering off of trails, because where there are deer, there are also ticks. We also do have another one of the native plants here, a nice Polytree, which I've seen peppered through the green belt, but it is also a really nice pop of green. It is an evergreen, so it will be there throughout the year, and you might see it in the winter and then remember that it was there and see it again in the summer, like this. So I think we've pretty much made it to the end of this trail. Yep. Oh, did you find something?
No, just right here. Okay. I mentioned the Sassafras Tree, and they have pretty distinct leaves. It's an easy tree to identify when the leaves are green and out. So you have one leaf that might look a little bit like a ghost. Sometimes they look like a mitten. I don't really see those on this one. And sometimes here, they look like a mitten. I don't know if you guys can see that. And sometimes they're just football shaped. And each tree sometimes has more or less of the other. But this is a very cool tree to see. And they are native. And as I said, they are kind of a favorite of the deer. So we're hoping they don't get too damaged as the deer population grows. Oh, some cool little mushrooms growing out of this one too. Yeah, they're very small. It might be hard to get a focus on. Okay, so we're about at the end of our trail here. There is a lot more to see in this park, so you guys can come up here and explore. Hopefully by next month we will be doing our Trail of the Month in person. But we are going to continue doing our Facebook Live activities and events because they are so much fun and we love having you guys watch us and join us virtually. So stay posted with our Greenbelt Environmental Education Facebook page where all our information is listed. Also in our Conservancy Facebook page and at sigreenbelt.org. Alright, and all of the information should be there. You can also go on Eventbrite and see what we are offering. So we'll see you soon.